Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to you all. Today in the grade 6 for the subject science we are going to continue our lesson from the lesson 2, that is air and water. Here we are studying from the chapter 6, conserving our resources. In that we are going to continue our lesson, that is air and water, from the page 330 and 331. So let's see the objectives of the today's lesson. So here first thing, that where do we find water? We are going to see that where do we find water. The second thing is that we are going to see about the solar energy and the water cycle, the relation between the solar energy and the water cycle. Also the process of precipitation, particularly we are going to talk about the precipitation, and lastly we are going to see about the watersheds. Here first of all we are going to see where do we find water. So now here, as we all aware that the water which we get it from the oceans, we can get the water from the lakes, rivers, wetlands, ice caps, clouds, soil, and between the rock layers underground. So these are the different ways from which we can get the water. So these are the ways from which we can get the water. Also we can say that water is an essential to life on the earth. Without water, similar to the air, water is also an essential to life on the earth. The water cycle which shows the continuous movement of water within the earth and the atmosphere. It is a complex system that includes many different processes. Particularly, the water cycle is driven primarily by the energy from the sun. This solar energy drives the cycle by evaporating water from the oceans, lakes, rivers, and even the soil. Other water moves from plants to the atmosphere through the process of transpiration. The water cycle describes how water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the atmosphere, cools and condenses into the rain or snow in the cloud, and falls again to the surface as precipitation. So here we are going to talk about the precipitation. How does it happen? So here the water cycle which describes us the different steps from which we can say that there is a condensation, there is the evaporation, and finally we get the water on the surface by precipitation. Here there are the 4 steps. As I told you, the 4 steps of water cycle are precipitation, evaporation, condensation, and finally the transpiration. So these are the different steps. We can also say that we can find the water in these different ways. These are the different ways by which we can get the water. So here now we can see that water cycle, how does it continues? So here the water, groundwater, we can say the surface runoff, precipitation. Here what is there? There is a precipitation. But before precipitation, we can see here the water from the lakes, water from the oceans, streams and lakes. It gets evaporated. After the evaporation, it goes to condensation. The condensation, after the condensation, it forms the clouds and all, and then it goes to the process of precipitation. This precipitation, after that, it gives us when some of the water then evaporates into the air and some seeps into the ground, becoming the groundwater. Some of the water moves downhill over the surface of the ground as runoff, surface runoff water, and enters streams and rivers. So here the groundwater we can see the surface runoff water, and again there is a movement like here. We can see from the plants there is a transpiration is happening here, transpiration from the plants. So here the water cycle, it continues. How does it continues? From here, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, transpiration, and so on. So this is the way by which the water cycle can be continued. Also we can see that the precipitation, it is here, the water, which is the groundwater flow. This is a water table, and infiltration here you are getting from the precipitation. Also here you are getting the water. This is the solar energy, the energy from the sun. It gets condensation here. Then there is a, because of the solar energy, there is a evaporation and the transpiration of these plants. Here evaporation, you can see the ocean water from the ocean, it is going to be get evaporated. Here water vapor, they are going to be get transport, and you are going to get precipitation here. So these ways we can say that the water cycle continues. The last part of the today's lesson that we are talking about, that is watersheds. What are watersheds, and what exactly the watershed in the river of Mississippi River? So here watershed is an area of land that feeds all the water running under it and draining off of it into a body of water. It combines with the other watersheds to form a network of rivers and streams that progressively drain into larger water areas. Topography determines where and how water flows. The Mississippi River watershed stretches from the Appalachian Mountains in the east to the Rocky Mountains in the west, and 31 US states and 2 Canadian provinces fall within this Mississippi River watershed. So we can see here the watershed of the Mississippi River, which is there in the Gulf of Mexico. So here you can see that the watershed in the river Mississippi. Also in the another picture we can see here the Mississippi River watershed empties into the Gulf of Mexico, that we can see here in this picture. And this is the, what we can say, the landforms such as the mountain ridges often form the boundaries of a watershed. So this is what the region that contributes water to river or a river system is called the watershed. The watershed is nothing but the region that contributes water to river or a river system is called watershed, and the different landforms such as the mountain ridges often form the boundaries of the watershed. So with this we are going to conclude today's lesson. I will be back with the further part of the lesson with the new video. Till then, thank you and good.